Welcome to this episode of Faith in Community. I'm your host, the Reverend Kate Seitz Bortner of the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of York. And today we have with us our special guest, the Reverend Patrick Walker, who is the field director of the greater Mid-Atlantic region of Church World Service. And Patrick, you're here to talk to us about the Healthy World Café.
Yes, I am.
I'm thrilled to hear all about it. It's a relatively new project, though not one that's just started recently, is it?
That's correct. In fact, believe it or not, we were incorporated November 15th of 2010. That's how long we've been kind of at this. It's just one of these things that has been slowly evolving, and the only reason it exists is because of community support. So we've been building that community support over the past 4 years to reach the point that we're at now.
What is the Healthy World Cafe? Is it a coffee shop on Market Street? Serves only Sprouts and fair trade coffee?
I know. The title kind of scared a few people off too when we started. No, it's based on a model called One World Everybody Eats that happened in Salt Lake City a long time ago. And in my job with Church World Service, our mission is to eradicate hunger everywhere. That's our mission. We run the Crop Hunger Walk in communities around the nation. We work in many countries across the world trying to eradicate hunger and poverty. And so I'm constantly looking at things coming across my desk, new ideas and so forth. And one that flew across my desk was this cafe in Salt Lake City where this woman just decided she was going to open a cafe and she was going to make it pay how you can. Just a leap of faith, okay. And then she decided, remove all the prices. And here's a cafe, it looks like a cafe, but you go in, there are no prices on the menu, and you pay what you think you should, so to speak. And if you can't pay anything, that's okay. Have a healthy meal, and you're part of this community that cares for one another and takes care of one another.
What a remarkable idea. And how simple and
It blew
kind.
me away. I know. I was stunned by it. And then so I started doing a little more research, and I called our friend Joan Maruskin and said, what do you think of this idea? And she said, I love it. Let's get together. Let's see if we can get an exploratory group together and start talking about this and put the plans together. So we started meeting at her house and quickly realized there was a lot of momentum for trying something like this in York. And that led to the development of a mission statement. Our mission statement is really simple. It is to help build community by providing nourishing food for all.
Wow. Easy to remember?
Easy to remember.
Makes sense.
And it makes a lot of sense because we know how much community happens around a meal.
Absolutely.
Whether
it's your own family or a 600-member fire hall dinner.
You bring people together around a meal and you build community. So we got started and realized from the beginning it had to be a public cafe, a community cafe they call them. It has to be owned by the community because the only way this model works is if you have a lot of support from the broader community and you have volunteers who help out. So that's how it got going.
So what have you found in terms of the demographic of who's interested, willing to actually support this and work to make it happen?
Well, it was fascinating because we started putting out feelers and decided to open it up to some public meetings. In fact, we had some public meetings at the Unitarian Universalist Church of York, and the public came out. I mean, we had great crowds of people who came out to hear where we were. And the process that we initiated was to keep everyone informed as to what we were doing and involve them in the decision-making process. So even our logo, the Healthy World Cafe logo, was chosen by that group of people who gathered and looked at the various logos that we had drawn up, and they said, "This is it. This is what we want," and it was amazing.
Lovely.
It was great. Even the name Healthy World Cafe came from that community. We didn't even choose the name. It was
So it isn't a logo and a name that is replicated
No.
in various sites. This is unique, not the concept, but this is our own homegrown.
This is our version of it.
Wow.
We own this. There are probably about 28 cafes like this across the nation now, and they do get together once a year, representatives from them, just to talk and support each other, which is fantastic. But there's no connection other than that support of one another.
Well, as a Pennsylvania Dutch York County, and this whole food thing, of course, goes right to my heart. So what's the menu like?
The menu is interesting, and some people, I don't know, it might not, you have to kind of get used to it, because our whole focus is healthy eating, but not only healthy eating, but local food. We want to source this cafe with the great local produce that we have in York County, because we do. We have some amazing farms and local farms and small farms all over the place that provide more than enough year-round to run not only a cafe, but to help feed the entire community.
Yeah.
So we want it locally sourced. We want to support those farms. That's why it's locally sourced. We're buying our produce, what we need from them. We're not only buying it, but then we're listing the day of our cafe. We list the farms that we got the produce from, so people can see where the food came from if they're interested in getting the produce from those farms. And we just are trying to keep it all in-house, and at the same time provide a healthy meal, which ends up being, some fresh greens, which you can get from Brogues Hydroponics.
Right.
They do a fantastic job year-round, and meats. We've got lots of local farms and butchers that provide excellent meats at farmers market and everything, and we just build our menu on what's available at that time.
As in our grandparents' day and even our day coming up, you ate what your garden produced, and
Yes.
we waited a whole long winter to get that first taste of a good fresh tomato,
Yes.
and the first sweet corn, and it's worth a year's wait
Yes.
for that stuff.
But it's amazing what you can do even in the winter months with root vegetables. I mean, we had an amazing carrot and ginger soup at our last lunch. And potatoes, of course, you can get throughout the winter, and you add a little meat to one of them if you want. We always have a nice mix of vegetarian as well as meat dishes, and some gluten-free produce meals as well, so that people can choose as they go through. But it is based on what's local and what's available at the time, which kind of freaks a few people out because they'd like to know what the menu is. And we literally put it together a week before because we're waiting to find out what's available.
What's available. So what you've just said implies that A, you have a kitchen, and B, you have enough room for people to come in and sit down and actually eat. So tell us about the location. How do I find you?
Okay. Yeah. As we progressed, we knew we needed to test the model to see how it would work. Location is key to any business. This is a business. Even though it's a nonprofit, it is a nonprofit business, and we want it to succeed. We want it to be here for the long haul. And so we worked with First Moravian Church they were doing a lunch at their church once a month, and they invited us to come in, and for 2 months we kind of did it together on alternating weeks, and then they turned it over to us. They had done it for 3 years. They were ready to kind of back off, and they allowed us to take it over, so that for the past almost 2 years now, we have been doing once a month lunch at First Moravian Church, using their kitchen and their fellowship hall to host this. And it has steadily grown every month that we've done this.
You say one Wednesday a month?
Yes.
Is it the same Wednesday?
Fourth Wednesday.
The fourth Wednesday of the month at First Moravian, which is on North Duke Street.
Yes.
Is it?
Yes, 39 North Duke Street.
39 North Duke.
Yes.
And what time?
11:30 to 1:30.
What kind of a crowd do you serve?
The last lunch we had, we served over 150 people.
My goodness.
In that time frame, and we were out of food by the end of the lunch. Yeah.
So, I come expecting to pay what I can for my lunch. Or if I'm very hungry and I need to eat, I can come and eat and know that I don't have to pay anything at all.
It's right, but it's all about community. So we say pay how you can, because we believe that everyone contributes to the community. Everyone, regardless of how much they possess as far as wealth. They're still a member of the community. They can still contribute to the community. So we ask people who cannot pay anything at all if they would volunteer, if they would be part of this cafe that they own, because it's a community cafe. And we have people who will come and volunteer an hour of their time to help us and to get a healthy meal.
It sounds like home.
It is home.
It sounds like the home that I and some of us grew up in, where if you want to eat, you help get the food to the table, or clear the dishes, and or even help get grandma to the table and keep her company.
Right.
Well, it certainly sounds appealing. What kind of demographic do you see coming in?
It's a good mix, and that's why we really needed to test the model. You have to be in a location where there are, businesses and people who can support you and come in and enjoy a healthy meal, as well as people who may not have the resources but can volunteer to pay for their meal. You have to have that mix of people. In fact, they found that about 80% of the people will pay what you should pay for a lunch if you go out for lunch, or more, because they understand the concept that they're basically paying forward a little bit if they pay a little extra, if they round up how much they would pay for lunch. And then about 20% will pay less or nothing, but most of them will help, will volunteer, and be a part of that community.
So you're finding that it's sustaining itself?
Yes. That's what we needed to see. That's what we needed to do, is test the model and see if people would come out, if they would enjoy the local produce, not knowing necessarily what the menu is going to be until about a week before. Now we're going to, as we move into a permanent situation and are open more often, we will have some signature items on our menu that you will always be able to find, that people like that. And the past 2 years have allowed us to find out what some of those might be. By serving them for the past 2 years, we've kind of narrowed it down to the items that will make signature items in our permanent cafe.
Can you reveal what
we have?
One or two of those
an
might be?
amazing dried fruit cookie that people just go nuts over. It's fantastic. But oatmeal and dried fruit mixed in. I won't give away the secret, of the ingredients completely, but It's really good.
Where do you get your recipes?
We have, on our board of directors, the chair of our board is Sean Arnold. He is he's a chef. He's a certified chef. He trained at the Culinary Institute in New York City. He is fantastic. Well known, I think, in that food circle here in York for his knowledge and ability to prepare an amazing meal. And he has helped train other people that we have to be part of that cooking staff. In fact, I brought a picture of him signing the lease, because we are moving. He signed a lease to the property that we're moving to, 24 South George Street.
Ah.
It was a former Quiznos restaurant.
Yes.
And we're going to convert that into our full-time cafe.
That's a fine location.
It's nice.
Real high
yes.
visibility.
Yep.
Yeah.
We're thrilled. We're thrilled to have that opportunity in that space.
When do you envision being operational at that site?
We're hoping sometime this summer.
Wow.
That's our goal. Right now, we've started reaching out to the philanthropic community of York. They've been very supportive to help us. What we're saying to people is help us open, basically. We need the startup funds
Yes.
to open the place, but after that, it should be self-sustaining, because we have found over the past 2 years, we have met all of our expenses, and the model will work, because people who come to the restaurant will pay for the food how they can. And if you build your model based on understanding that you're going to get about 80% of the people paying what they should or more, then you can adjust where you need to make it work.
That's significant. Those statistics are very telling. And the fact that you've got a 2-year track record,
Yes.
you really have a sense of how this is going to play out and how the community is engaged with it.
Yeah.
You've also had an opportunity to observe now for 2 years. What difference is this Healthy World Cafe making in the lives, or what impact does it have on the people who are coming?
It's amazing. It is like you referred to. It's family. It's home. Partially because of the setup, I think, at First Moravian Church, where we have long tables. Long 8-foot tables. You end up sitting down with people you didn't come with. And the noise level, the conversation level is phenomenal in this setting. We had one volunteer who came and said, I want to volunteer for my meal, but I can't lift a whole lot, but I can play the piano. Could I play the piano for people? And he just did an amazing job, and does. When he comes, he plays the piano beautifully for people. But people actually came to us later and said, could he play a little quieter? Because we're in conversation, and we can't necessarily, they want to talk. They want to talk to each other. They want to, communicate and be a part of this.
And don't we know we are a connection-making people?
Yeah, absolutely.
It really is what gives our days meaning and gives us joy.
Yeah. And I have to give a shout out to a lot of groups. There are a lot of groups who have come out and helped us. Members First is amazing. They have been sending volunteers on a regular basis just to come and volunteer and be a part of this.
Well, talk about that a little bit. Give a shout out to the folks who've been supportive, and then in that way segue into how our listeners might
Absolutely.
get involved.
Absolutely. Any business can join us. We've built strong networks with the farms in the area. We went out to them early on and asked them for their support, and also to find out what they grow, what they produce, so that we would know and be able to ask them. So Nuts About Granola has been a fantastic partner. Horn Farm, Buy Fresh, Buy Local, Dietz Farm. I mean, I'm going to miss someone, and I apologize right now, because there are just so many people who have jumped on board and helped us. We had over 108, I think it was 108, I just want to No, over 108 unique volunteers this past year helping us at our cafe, giving well over 1,800 hours
My goodness.
of time, just being open once a month.
Once a month.
At this enterprise. So, yeah.
You know, I I see clearly how this addresses the mission, fulfills the mission of eliminating hunger.
Yes.
But I also see how it is a very different model than what so many of our organizations have engaged in, certainly with great success and to meet a great need, in terms of offering soup kitchens and having community dinners and that sort of thing.
Right.
So talk a little bit about the philosophical differences between these two ways of coming at the issue of community hunger.
I think that's key, and why this model appealed to me so much from the very beginning. I work with Church World Service. They began at the end of World War II to address the needs of people recovering from the war in Europe. The whole faith community came together. It was ecumenical from the very beginning. The Roman Catholic Church, the Lutheran Church, other Protestant churches all came together to form Church World Service. And what they did is they started shipping food, truckloads to the shipyard, ships to Europe, handing out food. That was great. It met an immediate need. But they quickly realized, as we all know, that's not how you help someone sustain themselves. You don't simply feed them, but you give them the resources to take care of themselves. So CWS quickly evolved, Church World Service evolved into helping to address the root causes of hunger and helping communities provide for themselves. And this is a model that a lot of other groups have now adopted. When we go into a community, into a situation, we don't go in and do our own assessment and tell people what we're going to do for them. We build a relationship with the people of that community. We find out what they want to accomplish. And we draw up a list of goals and we say, okay, we can help you here, here, here in these areas to reach your goals. And that way, the ownership of what is accomplished is amazing. It builds community, it builds relationships that we have established that are now, in some cases, over 50 years old in various places around the world. So we have a fantastic reputation because people know what to expect when they engage with Church World Service. They know they're going to be in a long-term relationship with us. When I saw this, I realized it was based on the same principle. It was based on truly building community by building relationships. And, you know, a community cares for all members of the community and values all members of the community and says, pay how you can, you know, and be a part of this. And I agree with you. Soup kitchens and food banks, they're all critically important. There are some times where there's an immediate need that has to be met and there's no other way to meet that. You know, I would never, you know, say that we don't need those resources. And we still, to this day, in times of disaster, will go in with food to meet the immediate need because you can't expect someone to automatically say, oh yes, I'm going to take care of myself when they have nothing.
Right.
You know, you have to, again, meet the need, build a relationship, and then help them reach the point where they can sustain themselves.
The phrase that comes to my mind is inheritable and sustainable.
Yes.
And whatever it is that you're building, I think has to be able to meet that criteria because people come and go. You and I aren't going to be here forever.
Right.
And whatever we build has to be strong enough that whoever is beside us can step into the place that we leave vacant and continue. I understand that there is, in this world of community building and not just faith communities, but agencies trying to fill the gaps as the money and budgets and services landscape is changing so drastically.
Yes.
That there's a real effort to change the model and the philosophy from the marketing of crisis. The world mobilizes wonderfully when there is a crisis.
Yes.
And we show up and do everything we can. And then pretty quickly, life gets back to normal, and the demands of what we have to do day to day, the energy and the response sort of slips away. And what has developed is a whole industry around marketing events, locations, people, and causes from a crisis point of view, just to keep the resources flowing. And what Healthy World Café and your other model and philosophy asks us to do is think about a community development concept, relationship first, listening to the needs of those who are on the ground. And then over the long term, not swooping in and swooping out, but walking with those who are seeking to build something and saying, right now I don't have much to offer except company and encouragement. Well, there's very little that is more valuable than that.
Absolutely.
When people are hurting and in need and working hard, company and encouragement ain't nothing.
Right.
So I can see how this is really has a draw and is quite popular, and is inheritable and sustainable. So we've got someone watching this show who's thinking, man, I want to run right down there and wash dishes the next time. How does someone express an interest and make the first knock on your door? How do they do that?
We have a wonderful website. So if you go to healthyworldcafe.org, you'll get to our website. And there is a way, if you want to volunteer, to sign up on what is known as Volunteer Spot. You click on the Volunteer Spot button, and it will pull up our schedule, and you can sign up for a time slot to help us out if you would like to do that. We are, as I mentioned before, in a major fundraising period where we're trying to raise the resources to open at 24 South George Street. So we are welcoming all types of contributions at this point to help us with that process. Plus, we are developing a list of what we will need in the cafe, what items we don't have, because we're going from a situation of once a month in a church kitchen that was relatively well stocked as far as plates and utensils and everything, and to our own cafe. And now we're in transition, trying to make sure we secure what we need. So there'll be a list posted on our website as well of items that we'll be looking for.
So, wow, that is just very exciting, because there's a way for almost anyone to help out.
Anyone can plug in,
money, write a check. We need the check. Sign up to walk in the door and offer your hands.
Yes.
Or don't throw those old dishes out. Give them to us.
Right.
Or whatever shows up on that wish list.
Whatever
on the
shows
website.
up there, yeah. And we're asking churches and businesses to consider maybe taking on one day a month and coming in with a team of volunteers, a team of 4 people maybe, who could come in and commit once a month. This will be our day where we go to Healthy Cafe and we volunteer to help out. We will have a paid cafe manager. We did hire someone, and she will basically run the cafe and guide the volunteers and what they need to do. Her name is Liza Naylor. She's fantastic. You'll have to meet her.
Yeah.
But she not only helps run the kitchen, but she sets the tone for the whole event, so to speak. I call it an event because it's just phenomenal when you get there. You're greeted. The model is shared with you. You're helped in anything you need to try to understand because it is different. It's kind of, it throws you off a little bit when you walk in somewhere to a cafe. It looks like a cafe, and there are no prices, and there's not a cash register.
Yeah, we're really conditioned.
You get to the end, and there's a donation box, and that's how you pay.
Just that quickly, I forgot about that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just phenomenal. It's interesting. Another person who fell in love with this model, I want to throw this out there too. Ron Shake, the co-founder of Panera Breads, fell in love with this model, and we all know Panera restaurants. That's good food, and it's a nice cafe setting. He heard about this, went to visit one of these cafes in Colorado called Same, So All May Eat. Fell in love with it, like I said. He has turned 4 of his cafes into this model.
Really?
Called Panera Cares. And you walk into them, they look like a Panera restaurant, the same menu. He said, we're not going to change the menu. Nothing's going to be different. The only difference is it's pay how you can. And it's working.
I'll be darned.
It's working. He loves it.
Good for him.
And he's using his position to encourage other businesses and groups to get involved and to realize the value of this approach.
You know, Patrick, I was just going to ask you, what difference has this cafe made in the York community? You've just given me one answer. For a corporation, the CEO of a huge multi-million-dollar corporation, to make that kind of a shift is pretty impressive.
Yeah, I don't think he's going to convert all the cafes, into this model, but he believes in the model and he's testing it out himself. He has committed 4 of the cafes at this point to do this model.
So, what difference does the Healthy World Cafe make in York?
It builds a sustainable community. That's our mission. And we do that by providing nourishing food. We're keeping the resources local. We believe that we have the resources locally to provide healthy meals. We're teaching people how good local produce can taste and how easy it is to prepare. And we're showing them the farms that are nearby that provide this produce. So we've networked, built this relationship with our farms. We're supporting them as best we can by advertising for them and buying from them. And then we're educating the community about that healthy meal. And we're saying everyone's welcome at the table. Come and join us at the table. This is your cafe. And people are coming out and they're enjoying it. The conversation too, I have to go back to the fact that conversations happen in that setting with people that you didn't plan on having a conversation with. And we traveled in and met some of the directors of other cafes and asked them about this before we got started. And they said one of the most valuable things they found was that conversation that occurred. Because there could be situations, and they actually said, we've had situations where someone will come in, they've been laid off for a while, they just don't have the resources, but they know they can get a healthy meal. And they get the meal, they sit down, and they're sitting down next to somebody who owns a business in the community. And in the course of the conversation, it has happened where they've been offered a job and hired because they didn't know each other. one person had a need to hire somebody new, another person had a need for a job, but you bring people together in a comfortable situation where they can talk, no pressure.
I've heard it quipped that in York County, it's all about who, not what you know. But quite frankly, that is the way it operates. That's the way we as human beings operate anywhere.
Yes.
It starts with getting to know each other.
Absolutely.
And then you get creative and problem solving together.
Yes.
And network.
Yeah.
We call it in the business world networking, but it's the same in any village.
Yes.
Shared resources, and people want to be helpful to one another.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
There are two things that strike me about this: the conversation, the face-to-face, the energy that is possible in that space is a corrective and a balance to the technological isolation and siloing
Yes.
that our current culture is making possible and kind of forcing upon us, or we find ourselves in before we even know it. Screen time, yeah. And the other piece of it is that it is another layer of this back to the garden movement.
Yes.
In cities.
Yes.
The number of community gardens in York is increasing, and we have a community garden in our neighborhood collaboratively, and the food all goes back to the neighborhood where neighbors can come and get food. But frankly, a lot of times people say, I don't even know what that is, let alone know how to cook it. I'm not sure I would even like it, so I'm not going to take it home. The Healthy World Café, just a few blocks up the street from where we are, is someplace they can walk in, say, oh my gosh, I saw that come out of the garden last week. Let me taste it,
yes.
See how it can be prepared. Man, I'm going to pick some up next week when I have a chance. So it's this circle of really moving people from, give me a sandwich and I'll eat it now, to learning to know people, learning to know more about food, learning more about how to source it and bring it into their own lives. It just makes a lot of organic sense to me.
Yes, yes, and we see that educational piece as a key part of what we do as well. Showing people what is available. We've used Central Market, and their performance kitchen on a couple occasions to, pop up, we call it. We pop up in a place, put our sign up and do something like provide samples of food and show people how to prepare something. We're going to continue to do that, and particularly in our own space, we'll have the opportunity to have classes, to have opportunities for people to come in and try something and see how it's made. We often, will post our recipes on our blog page as well, our web page.
Yeah.
So.
Well, this is very exciting. You've really inspired me to get myself down there on the fourth Wednesday of the month and enjoy whatever is served up. My mother never announced it before the meal what the menu for the day was. So it sounds to me like it's more like going home than anything else. What else might you want our viewers to know about this project, or any other information that you want to get out at this time?
Well, I guess just that it's yours is the most important thing I want to convey. There is a board of directors, but because it's a nonprofit, it's a public entity. It belongs to York. We felt from the very beginning that we should have complete transparency in how we operate. And so we have a monthly meeting that's open to the public from day one. We've had this, and currently it's the first Monday of the month at the Friends Meeting House, 6:30 p.m. And it's open. We meet there, and anyone from the community can come and join us. We basically share everything that's going on and what our needs are, as well as what we're looking at in the future. So it's just, again, very important to us that people understand that this is York's Healthy World Cafe, and it will survive by the support of the community. Mm-hmm. And so far it has, and we're excited because we think it's really going to take off.
I think that you are excited with very good reason.
Yeah.
And there you have it. For those of you who need one more meeting in your life, or are really looking to get involved at the organizational level, attending that first Monday of the month meeting at Friends Meeting House would be a real good way to get an institutional overview. Yes. Of the way this organization has grown and is run, and where you might fit in a very meaningful way. Thank you, Patrick, so much for educating us about the Healthy World Cafe. Thank you to our viewers for tuning in, and I challenge you to figure out one way that you can get involved in or support the Healthy World Cafe, even if it's having lunch the next time they open. Yes. Thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you for joining us.